live on YouTube. I'm going to be answering your astrology questions, metaphysical questions, questions about your natal charts. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below. If you guys want your own natal chart reading or progressed natal chart reading, the information for all of that is going to be in the description box below. So let's see what questions the people have for us today. Hey Luna, how are you doing? I'm going to be answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, questions about your guys' natal charts. So if you have any questions, feel free to comment below. What should we talk about today? Make sure you guys like the video. Hey, welcome. Welcome. How are you? What's new? Hey girls these days, what's up you guys? I was just live on TikTok very briefly and then I came on here. Hey Elena, how are you guys doing? I'm answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, questions about your natal charts. Hey Susie, hey Crystal. Oh my gosh, what's up you guys? I'm answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, questions about your natal charts. Hey Aquarius, welcome. What's new? What should we talk about today? Hey Diana, what's new you guys? What's the 411? What do you guys want to talk about today? Astrology questions, questions about your natal charts, metaphysical questions. Hey, Indigenous being, what's new? Hey, from Sacramento, hello. Oh my gosh, Beatrice, how are you doing? I was just thinking of you today and your improv classes. How are your improv classes going? Welcome, everyone. Make sure you guys like the live. You said thoughts on Pisces, Moon, 2nd house, Jupiter, Libra, 9th house, Saturn, Cancer, 7th house, Uranus, Pisces, 2nd house, North Node, 3rd house, Venus, Cancer, 7th house. Okay, so Uranus, Pisces is generational. Saturn and Cancer is also generational. You said Pisces, Moon. Be careful with Pisces, Moon. You might go into like overeating and indulgence and like escapism in that way. Sometimes even substances as well because you're merging, okay? You're always going to be merging to people. So basically you are energetically sensitive. You said, yay, I'm so glad that that video resonated. I love when I hear that from you guys. You know, it's so interesting because it's like just life of an intuitive person. Do you know what I mean? I literally go with like the feeling aspect of things. And it's like every time you guys say stuff like that, that it was like the perfect time and it resonated and it was like on point for you. Like when, you know, you were looking for the answer and it came through. So I love it. You guys are so awesome. Such an awesome YouTube community out here. What's new, you guys? You said eclipse season, interested in knowing how these roles in eclipse will teach us. Oh, interesting. Yeah, it's going to be intense, okay, for like the next little while. It's like finally we're going to be getting out of the retrograde and then we're going to be going back into Pluto and Capricorn. So, okay, this is all I'm going to say for the next little while, okay? Basically from Pluto and Capricorn onwards, which is pretty much like the rest of this year because it's going to be in Capricorn until November, okay? Whoever is operating this earth plane, they're going to try to do the most to pull people back into the energy of Pluto and Capricorn, which is like everything that was taking place during that period of time. It's important for you guys not to feed into any of these fears and like narratives and so on and so forth. You have to literally be like, I do not energetically consent to any of these narratives, okay? Because they're literally going to be saying the most. It already started, okay? With a lot of narratives like this is happening, this is coming out, this is happening here, that's happening there. They're basically trying to rile people up because they want to basically preserve energetically. It's just my own opinion, okay? Have to say that, but it's just my own opinion. They're trying to energetically preserve like the old system and the old way of being, which is just like crumbling in front of our eyes, which is amazing, right? So it's like for it to fully crumble, you have to not interact with it and you have to like not engage with it. It's basically what it is because they're trying to like energetically pull the timelines back is really what that is. Hey Mary, how are you doing? All right, so you said thanks, you're welcome, you acting classes. Oh my gosh, that's so fun. I love it. Okay, so back to Luna's natal chart here. Okay, so Pisces moon. So 2nd house, you're mastering money, okay? Basically, which might be a challenge because the Pisces moon is going off into the ethers. So you're going to have to figure out how to ground your dreams, okay? Saturn, Cancer, that's generational. Saturn in the 7th house. Wait until after your Saturn return to get married if you're looking to get married, okay? For Saturn in the 7th. Uranus, Pisces. So there's the Pisces energy again. That's also generational, okay? So that's your subset of the generation. Basically, you guys are bringing through like innovations and like new ideas when it comes to maybe even spirituality, maybe even anything to do with like you know, just like anything Piscean, so like romance and like film and theater, like you guys might rebel in this area, even spirituality, like kind of like moving away from religions, going into a more spiritual time. That's you and the subset of your generation. And then second house Uranus are unique ways of making money, basically. Hey everyone, welcome, welcome, welcome. Hey Concern, haven't seen you in a while. How are you doing? You said, how can you achieve genuine self-love? Just be yourself and do what you want at all times is basically what that is. Like, listen to your heart space. I know it's so corny, but it's so true. Because I remember when I was younger and I was like trying to find my way and I was like, oh, I don't know what to do. And literally everyone would be like, oh, just listen to your heart. And I was like, but what does that mean? Because there's so much energy that gets thrown on you and like you have to sift through that first. You know what I mean? Like take off all this energy and like expectations and this is what that person wants and like all the projections onto you, right? So after you take all that off, then you kind of start to develop your solar plexus, which is your identity, and then also your heart space by like listening to what it is that you love to do is really what it is. It's literally that. So the more that you do what you want to do and like your heart space and like what you love to do, you come more into your truth is really, really what that is. And then your self-love. And then everything else kind of starts to fall into place is basically what that is. You want to always focus on the self first is really, really what it is. So also your North Node in the third house, basically your life purpose in this lifetime is to speak, okay? And so use the throat chakra is to basically use the throat chakra in this way, okay? Communicate, share some sort of message. I'm curious to know what sign you have in there as well. If you type it again, just type in North Node and then the sign and then the third house again. Venus, Cancer, sometimes the home and the family could be interfering energetically with your love life, okay? And Venus in the 7th, you basically feel abundant when you're in a relationship. Hey, everyone. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy you're able to catch a live too. So, okay, so if you guys want to know anything about your natal chart, go on like any of the websites where you can type in your information and you can look at your chart and see if you have any questions about your natal chart, okay, specifically. Hey, Infinite Zebra, how are you guys doing? What's new, you guys? I'm just going in order here, so I will get to everyone at the bottom. Yeah, so also another thing for eclipse season is like, I have to see what sign all the eclipses are in, but especially if it's going to be in like the Scorpio energies and so on and so forth, that's usually going to be like shadows and like things coming to the surface. So you always want to see what happened during the last eclipse season. It's probably going to be like illuminated and coming up once again during this eclipse. That's what an eclipse usually is. It brings something to the surface for you. 7th house ruler being in the 12th house, maybe a lot of your past life or like interesting. Maybe a lot of your relationships are past life relationships, okay? With the 12th house energy in there. Hey, Mary, how are you? What do I think of the energy? Okay, so what do I think the energy would be for Taurus Sun at 27 degrees in the A house in conjunction with Taurus Uranus at 27 degrees? And then you said on September 17th, 18th. So, okay, hold on. You're basically asking for this year in September. I'm not looking, like I don't do any predictive types of readings, but for your own chart, you're probably very unique and ahead of the time with that Uranus Sun aspect taking place. Yes, I'm so glad that that resonated. Hey, how are you guys doing? Oh, thank you, Mary. Okay, so basically I've been in the metaphysical world for quite some time, actually. So I've been learning everything about the metaphysical world for a really long time. I would say like probably like for myself would be since maybe 2015, okay, in terms of learning about chakras and reading all the books and just like I have book recommendations on here if you guys want to learn more, okay? So researching basically from that period of time. So in terms of like my own journey in a nutshell, I did, interestingly enough, so I was like really into yoga, but even though I was really into yoga, I actually did Reiki first because I wanted to learn more about the chakras and I wanted to learn about the chakras for myself, right? And during that period of time, I was actually like still like really like in like the linear way of being, if that makes sense. So I was working at the banks and then I had like my own side businesses, which was like fashion styling. And like I also was like hosting networking events and all these types of things. So when I went to do my Reiki class, okay, and I even have a video on here about how I got into astrology, which is going to outline this in more detail. But in a nutshell, when I went to my Reiki class, the Reiki instructor basically was like, you guys are going to pinpoint this day to like when everything changed. And I was like, yeah, right. Because I was super cynical during that period of time. And like, you know how you go through all the different Reiki levels? So I always had like a very specific intention for all of the Reiki levels. Like I would focus on a chakra and I wanted to learn more about that. And during that period of time, I literally was learning it just for myself, right? Because I was just curious to learn more about this world. And like then I started making the connections when I would go to yoga class and I'd be like, oh my gosh, like, you know, when my heart chakra is quote unquote closed, can like usually like in Reiki, they teach you to like not use these terms because like people like kind of look at it in like a shadow sense, right? But anyways, like let's say you are struggling with the heart chakra or it's congested, like whatever term you guys want to use, right? I would notice that like certain yoga postures were harder for me to get into, right? So like, let's say it was a sacral chakra posture or it was a heart chakra posture or solar plexus, like whatever it was, right? So then I started making that connection. I was like, oh my gosh, like I noticed that like certain postures are harder for me to get into depending on the chakra. So I made that connection. And then time went on And then basically I went off to do my yoga teacher training because I love learning. And like during the winter time, like at that period of time, I always like to get through the winter, I was always learning something, right? So then I went off and I did my yoga teacher training, which I did while I was working full time. Okay. So that was like over like a span of a few months. And then I did that. And it was interesting because the Reiki, basically the Reiki instructor was teaching us like if you want to have your own business when it comes to Reiki. And I was like, I don't want to do this on other people. I just want to do it on myself. But then slowly as time went on, I actually started practicing on other people with the Reiki stuff. And then I was just into the whole world. Like since I was young, I was always into like the metaphysical world and like psychics and like, you know how some people are freaked out about this kind of stuff? I wasn't, because also from a young age, my grandma would always tell me to remember my dreams, and then we noticed my dreams would come true, right? So I was always very open, I guess you can say, energetically. And then, yeah, I always like this type of stuff. So I did that, and then I did the yoga teacher training, and then I did the kids yoga teacher training, but I didn't like the kids yoga like at all. Okay, I did like one birthday party and I was like, I'm done here. Like I was like, these children are out of control and I just don't want to deal with this. So kids yoga teacher training was very short-lived for me. But yeah, so then I would teach yoga classes, and then I started teaching like spirituality classes, basically like about the chakras and like empaths and like everything, right, in this world during that period of time. And then I was like, I keep teaching the same thing over and over again. So I was like, let me just post it online. So I started doing that, and then I got into tarot. And then I did that for a period of time. And then I got into astrology, basically, okay? So then I started astrology. So doing astrology, like in terms of readings and for other people, I've been doing it since 2020, pretty much, like 2020, end of 2020, like beginning of 2021. So yes, so that's how long I've been doing astrology. But all the other information has just kind of been like a lifelong journey, basically. And that's my life story. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. You just have to want to learn. And I always wanted to know as much information about everything, really, because even when I was younger and I was like in my undergrad, I just wanted to know everything about everything. And maybe that's just like my Libra energy, like Mercury and Libra, because I always loved debates, and I always like wanted, because like knowledge is power, right? And they're even going to teach you, like, if you want to be a good psychic, you want to know as much information as possible, right? Because you don't know how you're going to get like the visions. Like you don't know what medium it's going to come through, right? So for a period of time, I would have like, let's say movie scenes, for example, and like feelings and moods and so on and so forth to like describe a certain emotion or whatever it is. So yeah, so when I was younger, and like obviously more of my ego, right? Just like we all are, I was like, I want to know as much information as possible so I can argue with everybody about everything and like, you know, like basically prove them wrong, like in whatever argument that we're having. So that was like one of the reasons, like back then, why I wanted to know everything about everything. But then that's just who I am as a person. And like overall, I just love learning, basically is what that is. So I learn things basically until I get bored, and then I move on to the next thing is basically what that is. I also I have my sun conjunct Jupiter, so there's that aspect of that as well, basically taking place, like the learning and all that. Okay, I'm just going back up. Let's see, what else are you guys saying in here? Welcome. Venus Mars conjunction results. I mean, your masculine feminine energy is balanced, so that's a positive aspect to have. And you might be artistic as well with that aspect, Venus conjunct Mars. And it's like the Mars is actually going to put it into action, like the Venus, like the Venusian aspect of life, which is nice. And also sometimes Venus can be money, right? So it's like, you know, you might kind of just be motivated to make money. Depends what the signs are in here as well and all of that. But that's kind of like the overall vibe. You said, hey Matt, how are you doing? You said you're curious about my thoughts on your chart. You have Taurus, Sun, Venus, Cancer, Mars, Libra. And then you said, and the best, worst romantic compatibility with other placements. Okay, so you want to know who you're going to get along with best with all that energy in there. So being a Taurus person, okay, so you're basically fixed and cardinal. So trying to stay away from mutable energy, that's not going to work for you. Even being a Venus in Cancer, like you're probably going to need like a homey type of feel when it comes to your relationships is really, really what that is. Okay. So maybe Scorpio energies could potentially work for you. Depends on the other energies in your chart. But it could be this, like you could have a combination, let's say with somebody else in their chart, like they could have air energy in there, like it could work, right? But that can't be like the prominent like focus in here, right? Because of the Venus Cancer, like the Venus Cancer, I don't know, I just find that water energies overpower a chart, like regardless of whatever else is taking place in there. I don't know if the energy is like suppressed and then you kind of like, you know, because it's so suppressed within the person, it overpowers, but that's just my own opinion, okay? So the Venus in Cancer is kind of like taking over basically in this whole energy story. So maybe even Pisces energies, like Scorpio energy combinations is really, really what that is, okay? You said your ears get so happy when I hear me talk because you need to hear the message quickly before you lose interest. Gemini rising. Yes, you said sun conjunct Mercury and Jupiter. Yeah, it's so interesting because it's like I obviously get mixed messages in terms of me talking fast, but like I can't talk slower. Like I lose my train of thought if I talk slower is really what that is. And as the information's coming through, like I have to say it as it comes through. Otherwise it's like gone into the ethers. So I'm glad that that resonates with you. And also that's also how I also listen and learn things. Like I literally watch everything on 2x speed. Like sometimes personally I feel like people talk really slow, and I think because I hear everything on 2x speed and just like maybe the way that like me and the people around me communicate and engage, like I don't really engage with a lot of slow talkers is really what that is. And it's also really interesting too because I've noticed like on TikTok, like the fast talking is like rewarded, and then on YouTube, like people like want you to talk slower, but there's always the option to listen to it on like 1.25 or hold on 0.75 times speed, like if you need it to be slower. So the option's there under the settings. What else are you guys saying in here? Thank you, Mary. You're awesome. You said you just ended a friendship with a friend that's been confirmed as a narcissist. You hate that word. It's okay. Most people have narcissistic tendencies until they heal on this earth plane. You said she's a Libra in your 12th house, and that is the cusp of Virgo Libra. Yeah, so that was definitely karmic and a past life connection with this person. Exactly, Aquarius. Yeah, exactly. Somebody asked me that on one of my YouTube videos. They were like, are you channeling right now? I was like, I mean, I guess. I don't know. It's like, I have the general outline of what I'm going to say when I'm doing the lives for sure. Because it's like, I'm picking up on the information, and it's like, it's because I have Mercury in the 12th. So it's like when I start talking, that's how like the information comes through. And I think it's by me speaking, it's like raising the vibration or something. So like the information starts coming through. So it's like the same thing when I'm making like the actual videos. Like I have the outline of what I'm going to say. Like let's say today I put out like Sun in the 5th house, but the rest of the information is just like whatever comes to mind. I just like say it in the video because I'm like feeling into the energy too, like especially when I am like recording the videos for the channel. Like I'm usually feeling into the energy, or I'm like connecting into someone that I know where I feel the energy. So I'm just like speaking in terms of like what I'm tapping into, basically like from like the feeling space. You said North Node in Pisces in the 1st house. You're feeling waves of trusting the unknown and moving forward with the way the world's collapsing. Absolutely. And then you said you want to go full on Virgo, plan and stress, but bad things happen. Yeah. So I'm curious to know like what else is going on in your chart. Where do you have Virgo? Because you said you want to go full on Virgo. Do you have a lot of Virgo energy in your chart? Yeah, I'm just going to tell you guys right now, as we go through the higher frequencies and vibrations, the whole like structure and system isn't going to be a thing anymore, right? Because the higher vibrations are unstructured. It's like energetic playtime up there. So it's like for the time being, while we're still under the energetic structure and everything the way that it is, like, yeah, planning and like all these energies are going to help, right? But it's like also sometimes, I don't know, like sometimes with like Virgo energy, and I said this, I'm pretty sure in like my Everything You Need to Know About Virgo video. So you guys, I have a playlist called Everything You Need to Know About the Signs. So everything that I learned about the signs so far, I put it in there, okay? So with that being said, with Virgo, I've noticed like they sometimes like to plan things because it gives them a sense of control, and that's usually connected to you feeling out of control when you were younger. So if you can kind of nip that energy in the bud, or like explore when you were younger, like why you felt out of control, and like try to transmute the energy within you, you might be able to go more with the flow, basically. Hey Lorraine, how you guys doing? You said energetic playtime. Yeah, basically. That's basically what it is when you're in those higher realms. It's really hard to explain because it's literally a frequency thing. Like you literally move up through the frequencies and then you access that part. And then when you're accessing that energy, basically is like then everything's coming towards you. It's really what that is, right? But you have to clear all of these like, I can't explain it any other way other than matrix constructs and belief systems, right? Because like the system puts you in a box, right? And it's like then you're kind of like always like it's so many little things here and there. Like for example, like going to work and then you're working, like it's a linear way of being, right? But then when you're in the higher realms, it's not linear anymore. Okay, so it's like then everything's starting to come towards you because it's like you don't even pay attention to whatever else is taking place anymore. I really hope that makes sense. But it's inner work, basically inner work and time to get into that energy. It's like the feminine energy within, basically. You said, how can we get our spirit guides teams to help us in this lifetime? So it's really interesting because it's like these days, honestly, these days, the way that I see it, I just see it as like yourself, right? All of these energies, I just see it as you, maybe from the future. You can even look at it as like God or whatever it is, right? Because the ultimate end goal is like, you want to just have like the full trust in the self is basically what that is. And to get to that point, you have to get in tune with the feeling space is really what that is, like the heart space and the feeling space. And you have to clear all of the lower chakra wounds. So definitely you guys check out my chakra series as well. So that was one of the things that I used to teach in person back in the day. And then I had it as a course on here. And then eventually I just like put out all the videos of, again, everything that I learned up until this point. So maybe I will learn more things as time goes on, but I relate everything back to the chakras, because like when you're channeling information and when you're trying to extract information out of the ethers, like basically you need like a focus point, right? So in yoga, it's called like the drishti, right? It's the gaze. So in yoga, you're focusing on a point on the ground and then the information is coming through. For me, I focus on a particular thing, right? So like, let's say I'm focusing on the solar plexus and I'm thinking about it, boom, information comes through, okay? I guess you can call that claircognizance as well. So with that being said, okay, in terms of like, you know, getting more in tune with your heart space and so on and so forth, you have to clear the lower chakra things is really what that is. So anything to do with the root chakra, solar plexus, sacral chakra, sometimes even the heart space, if there's like grief taking place in there, and all these types of things. And then at that point, you'll just be elevated energetically. Like in terms of your frequency, it's a frequency thing is really what that is. And then throughout your day, obviously, like it's going to fluctuate, right? But it's like, it's about trying to maintain the frequency. Now in the new age, a lot of things are bypassing. I will say that to you guys. So you have to do the inner work. You have to do the shadow work, the inner work, like releasing all the things that were energetically placed upon you. I feel like these things get placed upon people is really what that is, right? Because anytime any kid is born, right, they're like a blank slate is really what that is, right? So it's the conditioning around you and the circumstances. Sometimes it could be generational, sometimes it could be ancestral, sometimes it can be past lives. So I was just saying this in my TikTok live because I was just live there for like very briefly and then I came on here. But basically what I was saying to them is like, you know, if things aren't, you know, making sense from this lifetime, like let's say you have an irrational fear and like nothing took place in this lifetime for you to have that irrational fear, then you're going to explore your past lives, okay? Absolutely. You said everyone has their baggage to deal with, and you'll see that. That's why astrology is good, because then the astrology basically is going to give you like insight as to what your problem area is, I guess you can say, or your obstacles or your challenges in this lifetime. So we're just going back up to see what you guys were saying up here. You said, do I know anything about moon phase? Oh my gosh, that's so interesting. I just had somebody else ask me that same question. See, you guys are all on the same frequency on like during my TikTok live. So he said, do you know anything about moon phase personality? You said, what would be, or what do I think about being born on a balsamic moon? Personally, I don't have any information on that. I'm sure if you Google it, you'll get more information like what the moon phases mean. I do know, like, let's say if it's a full moon, it's usually sun opposing moon. So there's that. But for all of that, I'm sure you can find more information online. You said you have North Node in Cancer in the 3rd house, and then you said you have an Aquarius. You have an Aquarius in the 10th house. Hold on. So you have an Aquarius moon in the 10th house, and then you said how much of your 3rd house communication is going to be Cancer energy versus how much is going to be Aquarius energy. Hold on. You have North Node in Cancer in the 3rd house, and you have an Aquarius moon in the 10th house. How much of your 3rd house communication is going to be Cancer energy versus how much is going to be, well, it depends, right? Because if your 3rd house is in Cancer, that's the communication, right? And then the Aquarius moon, that's probably going to be your midheaven, from my understanding. Hey everyone, how are you guys doing? What's up? I'm answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions. Hey Edward, what's new? You said, what exactly is ancestral karma and how do you clear it? So ancestral karma, I actually made a post about this on my threads recently, okay? If you guys are interested, check out my threads. It's Barbara JSC, so it's basically my Instagram, but it's on threads, okay? And it's the same handle that I use on here on YouTube. So, okay, so in terms of ancestral things, basically what I was saying on there was like a lot of the time our ancestors, right? Basically like a huge human wound in this life, okay, is to be forgotten or to feel like you don't exist, right? So that's sometimes also like a shadow energy that's like pushing people, right? And like propelling them forward to do things because they want to feel seen, right? Sometimes if you're not seen or you don't feel seen, then you feel like you don't exist, right? We talked about this on my previous live, right? So connecting that to like the ancestors, sometimes the ancestors are trying to live through you because they also energetically don't want to be forgotten, but sometimes their energy does not serve this time anymore, right? So an ancestral thing could be like, let's say like within the ancestral line, like there was a theme of poverty, for example, right? So you can be the one that's like, I'm not engaging in this energy anymore, but then you also have to basically reframe how you think, right? So it's like, if you grew up with certain belief systems, let's say around money, well, then you're going to have to clear those, heal those, work on those, and you're going to have to like basically surround yourself, let's say by people who are wealthier and see how do they think, and then change your mind to basically act like them. Okay, everything comes from the mind is really what that is. So that's something that you guys can do, or someone that you guys deem to be successful, like see, right? Like how do they think? You know, what did they do to get to where it is that they were trying to go, right? So for example, that's just like a random example, but there could be other ancestral like patterning, right? Codependency is a big one. Could be an ancestral thing. So you're gonna have to like see what's going on in the family line. And I've noticed if you look at like family charts, like natal charts, you'll see that there's sometimes like a pattern, right? So like, let's say within a family line, there's like a patterning of just like Uranus energy, for example, okay? well, maybe everybody in this family line was like very unique. And the way that I see it is like that could be traveling until it gets to the person who actually expresses the energy as well. So you can have like the positive aspect of this as well. So it depends, really. You're going to have to basically explore and see. Hey, what's up, you guys? You said, what does it mean if you have no signs in the houses? Yeah, so okay, everyone is going to have a sign occupying a house. If you don't, then you have something called an interception in the Placidus tropical system. Okay, so that's when the energy is sandwiched between other energies. So technically, you do have that sign occupying a house still. It's just called intercepted, right? So like, let's say, and then in that case, if you're looking at the Placidus tropical system, you would have like, let's say Aries in 2 houses and then Libra in 2 houses and then 2 other energies that are sandwiched, okay? So I have a video on that on here if you guys want to learn about intercepted signs, planets, and houses, okay, what all of that means. Now, if you were asking in terms of empty houses overall, right, so you don't have any placements in a house, well, in that particular case, okay, that could signify that you've already mastered that in a past life, so it's not like a focus for you in this lifetime, is basically what that is. I'm just going back up. Hey, how are you guys doing? What's new? You said, true, no wonder you've been attracting so many Scorpios this year. Oh, you're so welcome. I'm so glad that that resonated. You said, you two, you literally cannot watch a video unless it's 2 times speed. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad that we are all on the same page. Yay, your vibe attracts your tribe. It's so true, okay? You said, someone online said that Pisces rising is likely to be on their last incarnation on this earth plane. You thought it was me. Maybe it was. It could be. Like, it's you completing a last cycle, right? So Pisces rising is completion energy. You're completing something, okay? The thing is, though, these days, like in terms of karma and like last incarnation, I really feel like we can pick. Like, I don't know how to explain it because from young, some people might feel like it's their last lifetime, right? But also I do feel like people still have like that free will choice to not want to incarnate down here again. Like, I think you can decide, but it's like as soon as you decide that you want it to be your last incarnation, you're probably going to have a lot of things come up and come to the surface to be cleared energetically and purged, right? Because it's just like, it's like a web of karma. A lot of people have had a lot of incarnations down here and then they've been like weaving or woven or whatever the word is, like into like a web of karma is really, really what that is. What else are you guys saying in here? Let's see. You said because of all the Cancer placements you have in your chart, is it difficult? You said it is very difficult to move on from past exes. How can you combat this? Yeah, I can see that. Cancer energy, it's like it's the home energy, right? So when you find someone that feels like home, I can see why it's a challenge to move on from that person. I mean, you know, you have to still grieve even like when something is done. You know, it's hard to let go of certain people sometimes, and Cancer especially can have a hard time letting go because they can become very nostalgic as well. But, you know, giving yourself the time to grieve and then finding other things that you love to do and just like, you know, going out there into the world, and eventually the time will pass. It's all about time, right? So it's hard to say because it's going to be different for different people, but the time will pass and then maybe you'll meet someone new or you'll find something new that you love to do and you won't think about it anymore. You said, hey, Barbara, hey, how are you doing, John? You said, can I explain how Saturn restricts whatever house it's in? Your Saturn is in the 4th house in the sign of Pisces. The Saturn posed as an obligation to that placement or more so an obstacle. It's a little bit of both, okay? So interesting because we were talking about this on my TikTok live just now too, okay? So basically what I was saying was like in the earlier part of your life, Saturn restricts, okay, that area, but then when you grow, right, you're actually meant to master that particular area. So Saturn in the 4th house. So you could be going through your Saturn return right now, which is in Pisces, okay? So because you're going through your Saturn return, not only is it affecting your 4th house, it's also affecting your 10th house, okay? Because it's posing like that energetic, I guess you can say like lock, right, on the 2 energies. So Saturn in the 4th house, basically this energy is karma around the home, okay? So it will give you the undertone of having a Capricorn moon. So when you were growing up, maybe the roles were reversed for your parents. Maybe you were raised by grandparents. Maybe it was a very traditional home, but a lot of the time, you know, there's like a focus on money, right? So it's like, again, the soul wants a specific experience. So you come through and it's like you want the money, but maybe you got restricted in this area, right? So sometimes Saturn in the 4th house, like sometimes these people like can take, you know, a period of time before they actually get into a family or like, you know, create their own family of their own, because like they could be, let's say, working and hustling, trying to get the money and the gains that maybe they didn't have in the earlier part of their life. Now, I also related this to the Erickson model. So that's another thing that I learned about was the Erickson model. So interesting how I stumble upon these things, like when I'm just like researching things online. So the Erickson model is in psychology. I'm not a psychologist, by the way, but I found it really interesting because to me, it like really relates to Saturn in the 4th house specifically, but you can relate it to anything in your life, right? Because it's like a psychology thing. But basically what he talks about is like how in our lives, right, there's always like a graduation like period from every phase that you're in, right? So it's like you graduate from like a baby into a toddler into like a kid into teenager, whatever, right? So that's the vibe. So for Saturn in the fourth, and then what happens also is like, if you didn't like mature or evolve like past a certain point, you get stuck, you get stunted, right? Energetically stunted in like that phase. So you'll see this when someone gets triggered, right? When someone gets triggered, the trigger pulls you back into whenever that trigger took place, right? So if you were a kid and you get triggered, you might react how you would have reacted when you were a kid, right? So it'll show you when someone gets triggered, like where they got energetically, I guess you can say stunted, okay? So it's this. So for fourth house Saturn, you get energetically stunted in the area of responsibility because you get a lot of responsibility placed upon you when you're young. And then when you're older, you might not want it anymore. But it's like when you're an adult, everything is responsibility. So it could affect you in your life in general because it's like, let's say, you know, you think consciously to yourself, oh, I want to be a manager. Or I want to get promoted into like a management position, but it's not coming through. Well, it's like there's this part of you that's like energetically stunted. You don't want that responsibility. Like it's the relationship with responsibility I find for Saturn in the fourth house, okay? So you're basically overcoming that. I hope that that makes sense. And then I have my Saturn in the fourth house video where you can learn even more about that. You said, I mentioned earlier that you shouldn't get married until after your Saturn return. Absolutely, you can have more details about that. So Saturn in the seventh house, it could also be Capricorn occupying the seventh house, okay? These people, basically what happens with them is you're looking for long-term serious relationships, right? So a lot of the time, they tend to get into a long-term serious relationship when they're young, okay? So like early 20s, and you'll see that they might be with this person up until their Saturn return, and then boom, the Saturn return comes through, and then you break up because this person is not serving you. So you guys can also look at Saturn return as like it's putting you on your adult path, okay? That's how I see Saturn, okay? It's basically clearing out any obstacles that are in the way of your overall life purpose, and you're kind of graduating energetically, this is more so energetically, I guess, from what should be actually extended adolescence in my own opinion, okay? So your adolescence should actually be extended up until your Saturn return. That's just the way that I see it, right? You're still finding yourself, you're finding what you want to do, and it's so interesting because also your prefrontal cortex developing like also coincides with the Saturn return as well, which is what I found to be really, really interesting because it's like astrology is super, super ancient. So it's like, how did they know that? You know what I mean? But anyways, okay, that's just like something to think about, throwing that out there for the people, right? So anyways, so this is what happens, right? When you have Saturn in the seventh, you really want serious relationships. And then what happens is if you did get married when you were younger, okay, you go through Saturn in the seventh, you might go through this breakup or this like separation around your Saturn return, which might be a divorce. And then when you go into Saturn in the eighth, okay, which is the next transit, you might go through separation of assets, right? That's something that might happen. So if you can wait to not get married in that period of time, obviously you have the free will to do what you want, but there's usually some sort of like breakup or something that takes place when you have Saturn in the seventh house around basically your Saturn return is really what that is. Hey everyone, how you guys doing? Let's see what else you guys saying in here. I'm just going back up. You said, can you start feeling your Saturn return at age 27? Absolutely. You might even start to feel it like up to a year before your Saturn return, okay? It's like creeping around the corner. It's definitely intense, but the only way out is through for Saturn return. And it's like a rite of passage. You know what I mean? It's like you going into adulthood. That's the way that I see it. So have fun before then is really what that is. Hey Shannon, how are you doing? You said thoughts on Sun, Venus, and Saturn and Pisces in the fourth house. So there it is. If you're still in the room, everything that I said about Saturn in the fourth is going to resonate with you and your Saturn return. So for Saturn in the fourth house, Saturn return people, what might happen is, let's say you might not, okay, so let's say you moved out when you were young, for example, when you were 18, well, around your Saturn return, okay, so let's say you moved out because there was conflict around the home and just like intense, like, you know, things that took place, let's say within the home, and just like, I don't know, I always call it like energetic beef, but anyways, some sort of issues that took place around the home, right? Let's say you moved out when you were young, when you were 18, around your Saturn return, whether you're living with certain people that feel like your family members or something might happen to your job, okay, and I'm not trying to speak this into existence for anybody, but that's just kind of how the transit operates, right? Because it's affecting your 10th house, which is your career. So something might happen with your job or something where you then get, you know, energetically, I'm going to try to stay away from the word, like energetically in a way, you know, you kind of just go back, right? I'm trying to stay away from certain words, I guess, that, you know, might feel restricting, I guess you can say, right? So during your Saturn return in the fourth, right? You might end up going back to live with your parents, okay? Or you might end up like, again, living with a certain group of people that feel like the same dynamic that you had when you were younger because you are resolving issues around the home. The karma is around the home and the upbringing with the fourth house. It could be the mother specifically, but again, if it's not the mother, dominant feminine role in your life, if it's not this person, basically whoever this person was, right? If the roles are reversed, you would look at that person, okay? So that's what happens when you're going through Saturn return in the fourth house or even a Saturn fourth house transit, okay? something of the sort could take place, basically where you're now resolving this karma or issues around the home, right? So it could have been the job situation, or it could just be like for whatever reason, maybe you worked in another city and then, you know, again, you don't work there anymore, you got a promotion, you go back to your hometown and you're resolving karma with the home and the family. Now, it doesn't directly have to be with them. It could be, let's say, with people that you live with, right? Because it's like whatever takes place, and again, I'm not a psychologist, but whatever takes place with the original two caregivers, this kind of keeps repeating, right? With like other people in your life until basically you clear whatever took place there, right? So that's how it is. You said, can we manifest instantly? Not necessarily while we're under the Saturnian astrology system, okay? So after you transmute your natal chart and whatever's taking place in there and you elevate your frequency and we're in the higher vibrations, yes, okay? So it's true and it's not true. I hope that that makes sense. So it's true in the higher realms, and it's true if you're able to access, like, you know, clearing a lot of the karma and the energetic things that are taking place down here and the lower chakra wounds and all of these types of things, right? So if you're able to clear all that and you're not operating out of like that unconscious, right? You want to master the unconscious, because the thing is, like, when we look at manifestation, right? Here's the thing, you know, especially when they teach it in the new age, they're going to be like, oh, like, think about this and like manifest that. But it's like most things that people are trying to manifest are material things. And it's like, if it's an ego driven thing, then also you might not be manifesting that thing like instantly, right? Because it's ego driven. Do you know what I mean? But if it's something that's heart-centered and pure, that can manifest instantly. So it depends, right? Again, where are you operating energetically within your body? Are you still in the ego? Are you chasing after ego things, lower chakra types of things? And a lot of the time, all these things are, again, implanted energetically into us. I hope that that makes sense, okay? Well, that's an interesting question. Do hair extensions, wigs, lashes, contacts, plastic surgery, fillers, and any other cosmetic enhancement lower vibrations? I can't really say that it would lower your vibration, because you have some cultures where they actually wear wigs to cover their hair, okay, which is just like an energetic form of protection for them. So for them, it's raising their vibration actually, because they're covering their hair. Do you know what I mean? But you'll see that in someone's natal chart, like someone who is interested in doing all those things, right? Like, I can't say whether it like lowers or raises your vibration, because the thing is, if you feel good about yourself, then you're actually raising your vibration. Do you know what I mean? So it depends, I guess, on the person and the intention and all of that. You said you believe that we can manifest as long as it's paired with hard work and dedication. Absolutely, you need to do hard work and dedication, but the thing is, you still have to wonder, like, where is like the desire coming from? Do you know what I mean? Because it's like, is it something that you actually want, or is it being energetically implanted? That's like a little bit more crowny, I guess you can say, but there's this. Let me just go back up. You said you would not be ready yet. You said you would not be ready yet for a long-term relationship. That is what you can tell. I'm not sure if you were responding to somebody else. Okay, I'm going to go back up to where I was. You said, what are my thoughts on modern planetary rulerships versus traditional? I look at both. Like I mentioned both sometimes, but I do definitely look at like the external planets as well. But the thing is, like, in terms of like the like traditional rulerships for planets, like basically each of like the planets had two signs, right? So basically the intention there was like, one was like the feminine energy and one was the masculine energy, and then the other whole like reasoning behind that was like, one was like the higher octave and one was like the lower octave, right, of the energy, or like the expression, like the higher expression and the lower expression as well. So that's ancient, right? So I believe that we have all this information for a reason, and you want to look at all the information and see what resonates with you and like learn it, right? Because it's there for a reason. So let's see, what else are you guys saying in here? You said, is there an astrological reason why you dread meditating? You used to be consistent with it, but you never look forward to doing it. And then is it your Aries moon in the 10th house? I mean, here's the thing. What do you look like? What is meditating to you, right? Because with an Aries moon, you can't be lying down or like staring at like a dot on the floor for like 10 hours, right? Like you're not going to get into a meditative state with Aries energy, right? So it's like with Aries energy, you have to be moving, right? So for you, maybe a movement meditation could be something that is like more alluring, right? So like running could put you into a meditative state, walking, going to the gym, boxing, right? So it depends on your energetic buildup. You know, I know traditionally meditation is like you're lying down or you're sitting or you're looking at a spa, but if you're someone who has a lot of energy and you're like a hyperactive person, you're probably not going to be able to get into like that energy. Do you know what I mean? So it's like different types, like maybe it could be cleaning or cooking, right? Like movement, right? Maybe a movement meditation could be helpful for you. Let's see. You said you're having your Saturn return. Oh my gosh, you turned 30. Nice. Happy birthday or early birthday. You said you have Mercury in Libra. Hey, that's awesome. Oh my gosh, Mercury in the 7th. Hey, that's great. Pisces North Node, what's next? I'm not a Gemini. No, a lot of people think I'm a Gemini, but yeah, I'm not a Gemini. I'm a Libra though. I have Libra Sun, Rising, and Libra Mercury as well. So I have a Libra stellium basically. And that's in the Placidus tropical system. What else are you guys saying? Any here? What is my experience using progressed transits to make predictions? I don't do predictions. I like to believe that there's some form of free will, even though the more you learn astrology, that's a question that's up for debate, right? But yeah, I try to stay away from it. Like, I don't look for it in advance to see what are the transits going to be. It's kind of like in the moment, you know what I mean? And I'm usually feeling into the energy too. So I can always like feel when something's going on, and then I find out, oh, this transit's happening, that transit's happening. So I don't do predictive astrology, not for myself and not for anybody else. You said someone online. Oh, I answered that question. You said Venus and Gemini conjuncting Mars and Cancer in the 8th house. Okay, so we have Venus and Mars conjuncting once again. So that could be like money, right? Like with that energy, especially because it's in that 8th house energy, right? But it's other people's money, so it could be like a business person, a business mind, or investments, right? Just try not to go into like get rich quick schemes. As an 8th house person, you're probably going to be drawn to that. Or like, you know, those people that like sell courses online and they're like, you're going to get rich if you invest $1,000 and you do this. Like, none of that is, that's all them getting rich, okay? Not you, okay? So that's the struggle for 8th house energy. Scorpio energy wants to get rich quick, okay? Pisces rising. Oh, that's so awesome. Hey, you said, who are the hidden enemies in the 12th house, Libra, as well as the North Node? Okay, so hidden enemies, if you guys want to know for 12th house energy, okay? If you have Sun in the 12th house, the hidden enemy could be the father or masculines in your life, okay? That's Sun in the 12th. Moon in the 12th could be the mother or feminines in your life, okay? The Mercury in the 12th could be your cousins or your siblings, could be past life enemies coming through as these people, right? That's Mercury. Venus in the 12th could be your past life enemies coming through as lovers. So that's Venus in the 12th house. Then we have Mars in the 12th. That could also be masculines or maybe like sexual partners. That could also be like past life enemies coming through as these people. And then we have Jupiter. That could maybe be like a spiritual teacher or someone of this sort, like someone that you might look up to with Jupiter in the 12th house. So that's kind of like the idea. You said you're using it less for predictions, more so checking out auspicious transits. That's awesome. Yeah, movement meditation is definitely going to help. You said that's a great question. Speaking of the physical aspect of vibration, is it true that ancient civilizations believe that there was a connection between our length of hair? Yeah, you see that in a lot of cultures. A lot of cultures have the belief around hair overall, okay? So it makes sense. I actually figured out why that is, because when you cover your head, right, you're actually covering your crown chakra. And I actually figured that out once because I was thinking, and I'm like, well, why is that? And I came to that conclusion when I was wearing a hat, right? So when I was wearing a hat, I realized you wear a hat to like basically keep your body warm, right? Because all the heat escapes through the head. So that's why a lot of cultures, and like even like back in the day, like there was always something to do with hair, right? Especially if you cover it, you're basically trying to keep the energy within the body, right? And then there's something to do also with like energetic protection in terms of like covering the hair as well. And then also like the hair like also latches onto energies, right, around you. So there could be that energy, or there could be like that, you know, connection between like trying to cover the hair or like head coverings in that sense as well. But yeah, the length of hair, like the whole concept is like, you know, the crown chakra is extending, because you'll see in a lot of like ancient like scriptures or like books, or just like even like, you know, when we just see pictures, right, of just like ancient beings and so on and so forth, they always have something going on around the head or like an extended crown, okay? That was also the whole concept of the crown. You know how we have like royalty that wears crowns? So I came to that conclusion. I was like, they're wearing crowns because they're the quote unquote enlightened ones, okay? So basically when you enter these groups, you basically get all the access and the codes to this earth plane, right? That's just my own belief system. I can't confirm that because it's just something that I've come to conclude, right? So I realized that like they wear crowns because it's like, again, they're enlightened, right? It's the crown chakra. So there's always something going on with the head, right? And you'll see like the circle around the head in like the ancient scriptures and so on and so forth, or just like people wearing certain things to extend their crowns, right? Especially like back in the day, if you see those images where they're extending the crown chakra, or like the skull being longer. So yes, so much to do with crowns. Yes, Safa, exactly. That is exactly it. Exactly. You said free will, you're on team free will, that's awesome. You said humorously, your wife and you inadvertently implemented the mindless manifestation by having it as a part of your computer password and you typed it in. Yeah, so that's the thing. So I noticed, okay, so sometimes when I'm trying to bring something through, I put it as my screen picture and I completely forget about it, and then it actually ends up coming through and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's because it was my screen picture like for my like phone for like the longest period of time. I'm just going back up. Marine spirits, I'm not sure. Or are you talking about wandering spirits? I'm not sure what marine spirits are. Are you talking about like spirits that are like in the ocean? I'm just going back up to see what else are you guys saying up here. Okay, you said your 12th house is Virgo/Libra. You had a close friend. I think we talked about that. You said you had a close friend, Libra sun, for years. You found out this year she is your enemy and you're devastated. So sorry to hear about that. And then you said Venus is in the 12th house. There it is. So past life, you know, enemies coming through as friends, also friends or lovers for Venus in the 12th house. How can you avoid secret enemies? Well, that's going to be hard because basically you see people through a rose-colored lens, right? So you're going to have to get in tune with your intuition and figure out like the energetic intention that people have, okay? That's going to be a struggle for Venus in the 12th house. Sometimes these people, even when it comes to relationships, you might get a lot of readings done for like your lovers because you might not necessarily trust your own intuition like as time goes on, because again, you see the idealized version of someone. So you'll have to get in tune with your intuition, right? And like see what is the gut feeling, not like what happens after time passes. Because sometimes when time passes and you enmesh with a person's energy, like you're around them all the time, you don't really see them anymore for like that initial vibe. You might kind of see them for the divine version. So it's really this, trying to listen to that initial gut instinct is really, really what that is. What are my thoughts on Jupiter, Moon, and Saturn in the first house in Aquarius, Taurus, Sun? So Jupiter, Moon, and Saturn. So you have Jupiter, Moon, and Saturn in the first house. You're here to master the self, basically, and your own individuality in this lifetime, like to be authentic and to be the self. How would I describe 29 degrees Saturn in Leo, 7th house for Aquarius ascendant? So 29 degrees, that's karmic, okay? You don't get out of that energy until you master it. It's actually karma with the father I'm picking up on. And also it's like you trying to unconsciously get the attention of the father. He could have restricted you in the area of like creativity and like self-expression, okay? Basically. Spirits in the oceans. Yes, I mean, I had a friend who was able to tap into that one time when we went. Absolutely. There's a lot going on with the ocean that I think that we are not aware of, right? So it's this. You said you have North Node in the 12th house. North Node in the 12th house sometimes gives me the vibe of like a past life, like life purpose that you didn't get to fully complete, that you're coming through to complete in this lifetime, okay? South Node in the 5th house in Capricorn and North Node in the 11th house in Cancer. Can I give you details? Okay, so South Node in the 5th house and it's in Capricorn. Actually, interestingly enough, what came through was, again, a vibe of here of like you not being able to fully express the self and you not being able to just like fully be creative in that lifetime, okay? Maybe you were more corporate, for example, in that lifetime and you weren't able to be seen, for example. You come through in this lifetime, you take that energy, right? And you want to apply it in the North Node type of way. So now you're coming through with maybe like you wanting to still be seen, but more so in like a mental type of way with the 11th house, like your mind and your ideas. It could be like tech, it could be innovation. Cancer, you could be working maybe more so behind the scenes. With a Cancerian energy, you could also work from home, okay? Maybe you come up with some sort of invention when you're at home. You said, and the crowns are always made of precious metals, aren't they? Interesting. You said you wrote that before. You have Venus, Mars conjunction in the 8th house, but Venus is also your 7th house ruler. Okay, is that what you're saying? It's your 7th house ruler. What does that mean? Okay, so Venus is also your 7th house ruler, and then you have Venus, Mars conjunction. Interesting, there's a lot of Venus, Mars conjunction individuals in the room, unless I already answered your question earlier for Venus, Mars in the 8th house. That's like wealth energy, okay? So, but you're, okay, with 8th house energy, you have to be careful when it comes to fast money and pyramid schemes, okay? Because you're always gonna try to get rich quick with that energy, or like you might be tempted to. And you said Venus is also your 7th house ruler. I'm curious to know what house is your 7th house ruler in, okay? So is it, because you said it's in the 8th house, so you have your 7th house ruler in the 8th house, I'm guessing? Because Venus is your 7th house ruler, and you also said Venus is in your 8th house. So your 7th house ruler is in the 8th house. Your future spouse or partner could be someone who is in the occult world, or like an astrologer, or someone who works with energy work, energy healing. It could be a psychologist, it could be a therapist, or these are places where maybe you might meet this person as well. You said Venus, Mars conjunctions are very attractive to you. You said you think in general the conjunction is fascinating and somehow magnetic, if not debilitating. Yeah, because these people, like, it's your masculine, feminine energy that is balanced, right? And that's usually what's attractive to people, is like androgyny is really, really what that is. So I can see how that can be super attractive. Let's see. Both of your Saturn returns have been dramatic and they changed your life both times for the better. That's awesome. Yeah, Saturn return, like if you kind of allow it to just happen and not resist it, like it is a positive outcome, right? But it's like birthing pains in a way, especially the first one, because it's like you probably don't want to let go of certain things and habits and just like ways of being, okay, when you are younger, right? And it's kind of putting you onto your path of adulthood. So it could be this. Like a lot of things happen for people around their Saturn return. Like sometimes people get married around their Saturn return, sometimes people have kids. It depends, right, what's taking place, right? Because I've seen sometimes with some celebrities, you know, I've noticed if they have a kid, let's say around their Saturn return, usually what that signifies to me is like the kid is coming through to put that person on the path of responsibility, right? Maybe they were just like here, there, everywhere doing the most, and then the kid comes through and it's like anchoring them, right, into responsibility, for example. That's usually, let's say for people, not everyone, right, but sometimes like I hook into that energy for people who have like their kid around their Saturn return. Virgo in the 9th house, Saturn 13-degree retrograde, Neptune 12-degree retrograde. Okay, so you have 2 retrogrades in there. And then Uranus is at 5 degrees. Can you get more clarification on how this looks, how it could progress? So Virgo's in the 9th house. Okay, the retrogrades in there. Saturn retrograde is the absence of a father figure early on in life, mental, emotional, or physical absence. And then Neptune retrograde is a lot of crown chakra energy, like blurring around the crown is really what that is. Oh, see, Diana, I just got to you. You were watching my fame degree video, okay, my fame degree theory video, and you noticed that you have a couple in the 29th degree, North Node, 8th house, Scorpio, South Node, 2nd house, Taurus. Can I shed some light on these? I'd have to look at your whole natal chart for that. You said Sun, Venus, and Jupiter conjunct in Gemini in the 6th house. So this is definitely a teacher, okay, with this energy. Sun and Jupiter, Venus, and there also could be just like you like the beautiful things in life. Definitely using your throat chakra and speaking, okay? Hey, Stephen, how are you doing? I'm answering astrology questions. What's new? If you guys want your own natal chart reading or progress natal chart reading, or if you guys want a synastry reading, the information for all of that is going to be in the description box below. Okay, you guys, I'm going to sign off now. Thank you for your questions, your likes, your shares, and your subscribes. If I didn't get to your question this time, I'll get to it next time. And I hope you all have a beautiful rest of